I do believe we
the
are
anticipation.
Yes, we are live. We are live. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
To Visionary Parenting, where we are sowing the seeds of success within us and within our children, transforming a generation to believe that they can be, do, and have anything that they desire. Now, Visionary Parenting is having a powerful conversations with a variety of thought leaders, parenting experts, and parents who are taking the journey to empower themselves and their children to live abundant lives as defined by them. It is just fantastic. Now, today, my special guest is the wonderful Nikki Steele Osborne, who is stepping into parenthood. Nikki's passion is to help mums to implement the tools that can positively impact them and their loved ones. Now, during the last 15 years, Nikki has lived overseas, having run a successful business, met and married her wonderful husband, and given birth to an amazing little boy. Now, her journey has been a roller coaster of highs and lows, relocations, postnatal depression, parenthood, and navigating the friendships that come with this transient lifestyle that she has created for herself and her family. This is actually going to be an awesome conversation. I am excited to have it. Welcome, 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 Nikki. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me, you gorgeous woman. I love what you're doing with this. It's amazing. It's a great platform. So I'm very honoured to be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. I am grateful that you agreed to come and join us and speak to us about your journey into parenthood. Now, I was introduced to you by the wonderful Donna Burfield. I always say her name, Donna Burfield. Now, she introduced to me a number of people in the parenting coaching world in Dubai, and this is how we came to have a conversation and connect at this level. And I just think that the work that you are doing is absolutely amazing. I thought, you are absolutely in alignment with this vision of transforming a generation, and you are beginning in that place of where we are stepping into, as you say, into parenthood at that beginning, at that foundation level. And that's why I thought it was just absolutely brilliant for you to come and talk to us about your journey. So yes, my first question is how did this come about for you?
Okay, so this was some story. So I was maternal from the age of 16, 17. I always wanted to be a mum. So when I fell pregnant at the age of 40, it was like winning the lottery. You know, we were so excited. We were in a great position. There was no stress. We lived in a beautiful place. So it was never something that came into my mindset that I would end up with postnatal depression. And when it did, and it took hold, and it ebbed and flowed for maybe 18 months. So previous to having my son, I was a hairdresser. And I had never immersed myself in the life coaching world. But it was a life coach that ended up helping me, and it changed the trajectory of not only my own personal life and my own well-being, but my professional life. I decided there was such a pivotal moment that I think I'll remember to the day I die, where after 18 months of, as I said, it ebbed and flowed. There were great times, but there were times where it was tough. And when I got the help and the tools, and I believe that it was as simple as having a safe space to talk. You know, I think when we talk to our family and our friends, they naturally want to help you. So you get opinions and you get judgments, and you take it all on because your mindset is not one that is good at, being Teflon and letting that flow off of you. You absorb it. So I think having that safe space was monumental. And I came away with some tools. And I remember at the time we lived in Tivat, Montenegro, which is a beautiful coastal town. And I used to do the same walk every day. And I was walking with my son in his buggy. And as he slept, I sat at the water and I just remembered to breathe. And I messaged that life coach and I said, thank you for reminding me to breathe. It was that simple, you know, but it was such a big impact. And that day I decided that I didn't want to go back to being a hairdresser, that I was going to take this and do something with it because it was given to me for a reason. You know, otherwise that would have felt like lost time, which for a while I did feel like that. I was very angry. But I now understand that it was to teach me something so that I could then help other people. And that was the start of it. That was where the coaching career began. I started studying. I did a diploma in postnatal depression awareness and started talking to people.
Yeah.
And it's amazing when you go out and connect with people, how many, you see it. You can physically see mums go, wait a minute, I feel like that, or I've felt like this. It's quite an emotional journey as well. And I have to be very careful that I don't trigger myself. You know, sometimes I have to pull back and go, okay, you know, you're good, you're all right. Because you can get your headspace into that place again. So you have to be careful with it because it is so close to my heart. But that's why I'm doing it. You know, I'm driven every day. It's not working. When people say, you're working awfully hard, I'm like, it's actually just part of my life. It's embedded in me as a person now, you know.
Yeah. And that's, I think when you're doing the work you enjoy, that's what it feels like, isn't it? It's just everything that you do and it doesn't feel like work. Something interesting that, you know, you had your child, what others may deem as being quite late in life.
Yes,
in terms of
I believe we're called geriatric.
Geriatric. Oh no.
But yeah, it is. It's late. 40 is considered late.
That's a terrible phrase, geriatric. But yeah. That's just geriatric. All right. So was others would deem okay a bit late in life. Now, does having your child later, is that a factor in possible factor in postnatal depression, or have you seen it at any age that you have a child, or is it more common?
I think it can affect anyone at any age. The statistics are 1 in 10 mums suffer, but that is based on those that are reported and seek treatment. There are so many more who don't, and I was one of those. I didn't raise my hand and say I need help at the beginning. You know, because so I think the age thing, you know, and postnatal depression can be psychological, biological. There are different aspects as to why it happens to different people. The age, I would say maybe physically, you know, it was tougher on me. You know, I guess when you're in your 20s, you kind of spring and ping and go, you know, your body does things. But when it gets a bit older, it doesn't spring and ping quite so easily. I remember holding Archie in my arms when he was a baby, and my back was so painful. I think just after the weight, you know, of being pregnant, and your body adjusts, everything changes. And this is all the stuff that I also love talking about, like normalizing the conversations we have about this. You know, no one told me, and I was 41. So, you know, I've been around the block. I understood and thought I knew it all, but no one told me that my feet would be a size bigger after having a kid. I'm like trying to put shoes on and going, what is happening here? Nobody told me.
It can happen, and sometimes it takes a moment for it to return. Sometimes it does return to the size that you was before. Yours didn't. No,
Nope.
Just stayed the size bigger.
Yes.
And the thing is,
Yes.
there's different things that happen to different women during and after childbirth. And as you say, as I had my daughter at 29, so not quite as, but still, long enough to have done a few things and stuff, and got things in place and what have you. And to be fair, in my 20s, I was like, no, I'm not gonna have any kids. I don't want none. And then I was like, oh, actually, maybe one. And so and I do recall those early months being very challenging, very difficult, because you step into parenthood just like that. It's like you just step into it. It's like there's no pre-learning. Yeah, you might do a prenatal course or anything like that, but there's no teaching about what it takes to be a mother or what it takes to raise a child. And yes, you can look at some books if you do, but to be honest, how many people actually do that, to read up ahead and prepare for parenthood in that way? Certainly I didn't. I'm gonna put my hands up. I didn't. No. I just had my baby and stepped into parenthood just like that. And when it happened, it was like, whoa. Okay.
Because everyone's experience is so different. So there's not a book out there that can actually embody it and say, okay, this is what's going to happen. Because for every person and every baby, it's different. For some people, it's not even being a birth mother. Some people are adopting, they're fostering, this plays out in different aspects. But as soon as you bring, a person into the home, however that happens, you've entered a different world here, right? And there's not, I was talking to someone the other day and I said, look, this is what I do. This was me explaining what I do in the world. And I said, when you buy a car, there's an airbag, right? And you're not expecting to smack into a wall and need the airbag, but it makes you feel a bit better knowing that it's there. That's what I do for mums. It's like, I'm not here to scare anyone and to say you're all going to get postnatal depression. What I'm doing is saying, just be aware of your own human needs. Let's have a chat about that. Let's just figure ourselves out. And, as adults, whether we have children or we don't, we sometimes forget the things that we need to be doing for ourselves because we get so immersed in paying the bills and looking after a home and, whatever it is. So when you already go through this as an adult, then you bring a child into the mix and you're becoming a parent, you get off kilter, right? You get a wee bit imbalanced. And that is what I'm here to try and do, is to bring that bit of balance and preparation. And if you need it, then it's there. And if you don't, super. I'm an airbag. I'm an airbag. I'm sure there's some people that would agree with that.
Safety device, absolutely. Okay, so all right, so when we have like I said, we just kind of like step into parenthood and we just have our kids, and that first experience of when you're holding your baby in your arms and you're going through the first few weeks and so forth, and it's like, okay, what do I do? How do I do this? How do I make sure that my baby is safe? How do I know that they've, got enough food and that, all of the things, and, making sure that they're alive and breathing well. Now, at what point or when do we notice, or when would a person begin to notice that they may have some kind of symptoms of postnatal depression? What is it? Because others may just, it may just flow into, and they may just think they're tired, that baby's keeping them up all night and having to deal with colic and things like that. And, and they may just be thinking it's, the day-to-day of looking after of a new baby, as opposed to them actually experiencing signs of depression. How does one begin to identify that?
So there are different aspects to it. So I think most people are familiar with the term baby blues, but there are actually the baby pinks first. So when you
Just go over the baby blues, just in case some aren't familiar with baby blues.
So it starts at baby pink. So we'll do a wee progression.
Okay.
So in the first maybe 3 days, it's referred to as baby pinks. And that is when, you can feel a bit overwhelmed, tired, your hormone levels that have been elevated during pregnancy drop after birth. So it's very much expected. There'll be tears, and it's a massive moment in your life. Then after 3 days, they would refer to it as baby blues, which again is, you can be quite emotional, overwhelmed at this new prospect of looking after a person, anything beyond 10 days to 2 weeks, if you're still feeling that something's not right, and a lot of it comes down to your intuition and your own gut feeling. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of things that contribute to it. So I very much feel that social media and the resources that we have at our fingertips are amazing now. Our grandparents didn't have that. Mm-hmm. But that also is a double-edged sword, because you also have a world of comparison. So if you, as a new mum, you're jumping on and you're looking at Instagram and it's like, right, they're wearing matching outfits and they look quite shiny and fabulous, and I'm sitting here in my pajamas, covered in baby vomit. What's going on? So it's a real kind of dangerous world. And that is why I like to look at the preparation side, because there's no sugarcoating that, you're going to be down on sleep. There is a natural protective, that lioness kicks in, right? So you, like you said, how do I keep this baby safe? And you have to be aware of the anxiety and the worries that you have, and we all do it as parents. It's almost part of it. So I think what we need to discuss is embodying and embracing some of the parts of this. Instead of resisting them. It's like when you try and put it into a box, how you should feel and how you shouldn't feel, well, that's not going to work, because some of these things will be tested by the individual. Everything that I looked at, this was one of the things that stood out for me personally, was everything I looked at regarding postnatal depression would indicate that you don't perhaps connect with the baby. This is something that's very commonly, put out there.
That you're missing that maternal bonding.
Yeah, and it is obviously a symptom, but it's not always the case, because that was never how I felt. So what I felt was that here was this little person that I was so madly in love with, that my own insecurities, my own inner voice was saying, you're not good enough to be his mum. Look at this perfect person. He's amazing. Like, how are you going to pull this off? What are you going to do now? He's here. You've got to do it. Oh, but you've got to do it well. This is it. This is the big test. And it was terrifying. And it was, it took me into spirals, because when I started thinking that, then I would question so many things about myself. And it wasn't until I started doing a bit of personal development and I started understanding what was going on, but as I say, that was 18 months down the line before I really learned. And that's why I want to be this bridge. I want to be here so that if someone is feeling they need to talk about it, or something's just not connecting with them, they're feeling something's out of balance, I can say, okay, consider this and this and this. And I didn't have that. And that's why I created that online course, because I didn't have it. And I've made it for me 4.5, 5 years ago. That was the premise of it. But so there are things that you will think are, familiar or always part of the postnatal depression umbrella, but just be aware that it can be different. You can have different symptoms, and they say sorry,
I was going to say, could you just give an example of what some of those symptoms are?
So for me, feeling disconnected and you know, there were times where I just felt I was watching my life. It was a very strange sensation. Frustration, anger, being tearful, you know, there were an awful lot of tears. And I mean, anyone who knows me, I cry for fun. You know, I don't apologize for that. I think it's good to get it out. But this was different. This was like a hurt. This was a heart feeling. But it wasn't always like that, you know, it wasn't a consistent. So I think I kept pushing it down and saying, okay, I'm feeling a bit better today, let's get on with things. And then it would just creep back in again. And now that I identify those feelings, if I'm having a time where negative emotions are coming in, I understand myself better now. So I can go, okay, that's what it is. Again, allow these things. Don't resist it all the time. You know, and when you're a new mum, if you want to sit and have a good cry in a tub of ice cream, go nuts. You know, you've got nothing to prove to anybody. And it's crazy, right? Because it's not, being a parent is not hard in a academic sense, right? It's, you know that we have to feed them and love them and look after them. But it's the repetitive, you know, in the early days, it's repetitive. And what normally happens is you become so immersed in that you forget to do the other stuff that you need first. It's like putting on your oxygen mask first, you know, and questioning. You'll question every decision that you make, you know. And again, this is where I say, sit into your own feelings on it, because there's not a right or a wrong. Breastfed, bottle fed, you know, there's not rights or wrongs, co-sleeping, independent. It's whatever works for your family. It's your journey, your family, you know. And when you understand that, when you take that on, it's a different ballgame.
It's doing, like you're saying, doing what works for you and your family to allow you to, for all of you to thrive and grow. And
that's the thing, it's not just the mums. It's not just the mums, you know, the fathers are then witness to this, you know. I sometimes wonder if it was worse for my husband than it was for me, because he was witness to this. He was also a new parent, looking after his baby boy and watching his wife break, you know.
And a newborn. Go ahead, sorry.
And I just think that's tough, and that has to be brought into the conversation, because we do focus an awful lot on mums, you know, but that's why I like to say, no, Dad, come on. you know, I see you too.
They're a part of the parenting journey, most definitely. And I know that newborns, a new member into the family, and all of the anxiety that brings can often apply pressure to a relationship or marriage. And sometimes these things, you know, they fall apart soon after a baby is born and stuff. So I mean, and again, that's to do with a lot of the emotions that is being experienced by both at the time, and the change that occurs when a new baby or a baby comes into and creates the family. So there's so much dynamics involved when we have a baby, a new child, and stuff, whether it's a newborn or an adoptive or whichever way that new person comes into the family, there is always
and you have, you know, you have the couples who enter into parenthood because they believe it will fix their relationship. You know, if it's already on a shaky nail, it's on a bit of thin ice, and they go, do you know what we'll do? We'll have a baby, then we'll be golden. No, please don't do that. You know, because it really will put your relationship to the test. Because there's, you know, there's lack of sleep and expectation. You know, I often talk about expectation of each other, of family, of friends, and more importantly, of yourself. You know, so expectation plays a big part in this, but as a couple, you know, that has to be, that narrative needs to be opened. Okay, who's doing what here?
Absolutely. And that just reminds me of a previous guest that I had in series 1, Gary Talbot, who spoke about parents needing to be on that united front. And that starts from birth. That starts from when the baby first comes, is being united, being together on the same page of the things that you're going to do or implement with your child as you're raising them, you know? And so it does, like you say, we do have to be mindful of the fathers and making sure that they are involved in the whole conversation, because you know, when the mother is experiencing postnatal depression, they will be feeling the impact of it.
Absolutely. It's hard, you know, and it puts everyone through their paces. And, you know, as we know, men and women are very, very different. And, you know, this is absolutely generalization, you know, but men want to fix things, you know, they like fixing stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and here we are. And the problem that arises is that we won't admit we're broken. We won't admit that there's something going on because you don't want to acknowledge it. Because I think when you say it out loud, it makes it real, you know. So there's that part of it which needs to happen to get the solutions for it. You've got to do that first. So you've got to get it out there that there's something going on. You know, we've spoken about, you know, that I've lived overseas for 15 years. So that put in a different dynamic as well, that, you know, my family, my mum, my friends were in Scotland. I was in Montenegro. So where, you know, I talk to my family, we're close, we talk about things, but I didn't even admit to them because in my mind, I didn't want to worry my mum. You know, I didn't want them to be thinking that I couldn't cope. I didn't want that burden on them, you know. So I almost pretended sometimes that everything was okay. You know, it was, and I think that is also something that you have to look at as your tribe, your support system. You know, it's hugely important. I mean, that's why they say it takes a village, but you need support as you transition. You know, I think it's massive.
Yeah. And as you say, it's like when you feel almost isolated, so you was away from your family, from your immediate support network, and that makes it even more challenging that, you know, you haven't got that go-to person in presence. That's not to say that you couldn't have made the calls, but you know, in that sense,
you don't have proximity.
That makes a big difference. You know, and I was very much grateful for, you know, my parents and siblings being around when I had my baby. Now, at the time I had my baby, social media wasn't a factor at all. And so, but I do think that people are very much aware of the fakery of social media and the images that are put out there. And I think they, you know, some still do give in to and compare to what they see visually, you know, and some try to put those type of, but I would hope and pray that people don't subscribe to that image of reality that's put on, you know, when it's all glorious and roses, because we know that that's not life. Yes, you might catch moments like that, but to say that it's continuous in that way, yes, we'd love for that to happen, and we do have those moments from time to time, but that's not what everyday life is like. No. You know, and
I think it's getting better. I do think, like you say, people are switched on. And people, I think, are feeling, because it seems to be getting more open, that even the ones who were shiny on Instagram are becoming a little bit more authentic. They're sharing a little bit more of, okay, today was maybe not a good day, or, you know, I didn't make rainbow spaghetti from scratch. You know, I gave my kids a McDonald's. I feel like I'm seeing more and more of it, that people are starting to say, okay, how can we help each other if nobody's being honest here? You know, so it's being honest without scaring. Again, it's not about scaremongering, and it's about just opening the narrative and making it a normal conversation. And that can only be good. That can only be good, right?
Absolutely, because, you know, if we're not in a good space from the off, This is at the time when our children are babies, up to say the age of 7. That's when their brains, their subconscious mind is open, and that's where their paradigms are being shaped and formed. So we want to be, as parents, in peak condition, in peak state, emotionally, and mentally, and able to feed the paradigms that's going to nurture our children in such a positive way. This is why it's important to have these conversations now, when it is happening.
It's amazing what they take on.
Exactly. Exactly. And if they are experiencing, my light's just gone off, so suddenly I've just gone dark.
You still look... Same here.
Yeah. And so it's like they're at this age now, when they're first into the world, we want to be in our optimum as best as possible, and being aware of the messages that are being fed to our children's subconscious mind, because they're at an age where they cannot reject or accept an idea that's being presented to them. Their minds are just open and receiving it all, that logical brain is not kicked in yet. So they're just that open sponge, forming the paradigms, forming who it is, their ideas of the world around them, their ideas of themselves, their ideas of others, and it's shaping, creating belief systems and belief structures. That's what's happening at that time period. And so if we are not in our optimum condition, in our prime condition, or even aware of it, it's not to say that we have to be in our optimum commitment. No,
because we're always evolving.
Yeah, because we're always evolving, we're always growing and stuff. But being aware is what makes the difference, isn't it? Being aware of the messages that are being fed into ourselves and into our children. So,
and I've seen evidence. I've seen evidence now where, it was brilliant. My son came in one day. I was in the house and I was hanging up some laundry, rock and roll lifestyle, hanging up the laundry. And my son came in and he went, "Thank you, Mom." And I said, "Thank you for what?" And he said, "For doing the washing." And I was like, oh my goodness. And he did it a couple of times. Like, he came home one day and he was so excited, like, "Thank you for hoovering the couch." We have a dog, so it gets covered in dog hair. And then I started thinking about it and I thought, do you know what? That is because my husband and I are very vocal with our thank yous, and we're respectful to each other. So, and we're grateful to each other. So if, Kevin makes dinner, I will always say, "Thank you for making dinner, babe." And we just always have done so. But when you've got this little person coming and then saying this, I was like, wow, this is cool. And the conversations, I think that perhaps before I educated myself and started down this road, I would perhaps before, if I had been in a bad mood or I had been short with him, I don't know that I would have apologised. Because I would still have been in that headspace of, well, I'm the adult and he's a kid and it's fine. But that is not how it plays out. So now if we have a moment, which we do, he's 4 and he's nuts. He's my son. So he is like big character, big personality. But we have conversations, obviously based on a level that he can take in. But if I've been short, and I often talk about this, that he can present the same behaviour, okay? So he can come one day and say, "Mum, I'm hungry." And I can go, "Yeah, you're always hungry. What do you want now?" And be playful and, have a laugh with him. But he can come with that same statement, "Mum, I'm hungry." And I can be like, "Right, okay, you're going to get your dinner in 10 minutes. You've had enough." So the behaviour that's presented is exactly the same, but the reaction's different. So the reaction is coming from me.
Yes.
So now, I love that. It's not about pretending to always have it together and to always be delightful and wonderful. No one is. And when we stop rejecting what we call negative emotions and just understand them, where they're coming from, and then you talk to your children like that, then this generation will hopefully be a bit more mindful and hopefully be more aware. you know, of how we talk to each other and what it is that makes us react in the ways that we react.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, but as I say, when you see it in action, you know, and that, like, thank you, Mom, it just blew my mind.
Yeah.
And I thought, we did that.
Yeah, that's right. I did that. Yeah. I made that. I made that.
Good.
Yeah, good. But that's the thing, isn't it? They model your behavior. They model what it is that you do. They pick up on all of your energies and your responses. So they learn how you respond and react to situations. They learn whether they're going to bring something to you or not based on the responses and reactions that you've given them in the past and stuff. So they learn all of these things about you, whether you're consciously aware of it or not. So the difference here then is to be consciously aware of it. Yeah. And you know, awareness is key. I sort of always say awareness is a key. Is when you are aware of what it is that you're doing, what are the messages that you're teaching to your children, you know.
And you know, the other side of that is that people will say that. So when I was struggling, you know, in the kind of darker times, and then people would say things like, you know, oh, just, you're all right, just calm down because the baby will feel your stress. That was like a knife in the heart, because then it felt like what you were saying was that I'm actually damaging my baby because I've not got myself together. So I think we have to be careful as well as to how we deliver that, how we peak that awareness as to how you behave as the parent. But you've got to be careful because that can be pretty detrimental. Like I remember that guilt, and you know, you've got to remember you get a wee injection of guilt when you have a baby. Did you know that there's actually a guilt thing that they inject? Because everybody has it. I don't care who you are, how you parent, everybody gets that guilt thing. You know, but that compounded it for me, like that feeling of, okay, so my state, my negative state, I'm actually doing damage to my baby. So it was just compounding these negative thoughts that I was already having of myself. I didn't need somebody else to add on to it. You know,
I understand. I do understand what you're saying there, and I do believe, as you say, that you know, you have to find a way of delivering that message. However, that message is the message. You know, it's true. And you know, sometimes the truth hurts, and the truth hurts in the most difficult times. But at the same instance, like, you know, we have to get to grips with that, and say, okay, I don't want to be the reason for, you know, I want to be the best version of me so that my child can be the best version of them. I you know, I don't want my child, I don't want my child to get into parenthood and have to go through therapy to get over their childhood, you know. So those are the sort of things that we have to suck up and you know, grow and do the growing journey. You know, because it is a growing journey for us as well as parents. It's a learning curve that we have to take, enable for it to exactly, because this is the thing. And if we look at it like that, because it's all about our perception, it's all about how we look at things, you know. And so if we look at it that we have to go on this growing journey, this learning journey, to be the best version of a parent that we can be, so that our child can be the best version of the human that they're going to grow and be. And then we are both these magnificent versions of ourselves. So why would we not want to embrace that? You know,
and I do wish I had got into this, you know, years ago, but I guess things happen the way they happen. You know, and that's what I was saying earlier. I was never immersed in the, you know, coaching or wellness or however you want to look at it. But once you're in, and it's amazing the transformations that happen when you do that, and how you really do sit into who you are. And it's not about performing for anyone else. It's not about doing things you believe others expect of you, you become into your own. And it's an ongoing journey, and it's an evolving, you know, and I think that's the thing as well, is like welcoming these changes. I find that a lot of mums are so quick to want to bounce back to their pre-baby weight, bounce back to their career, bounce back to their lifestyle. Stop bouncing. Why are you going back the way? Why don't we say, okay, your body maybe has changed. Some people do go back to their original weight, size, some don't. But what if we opened it up and said, it's okay, whatever way this plays out, as long as you're happy and comfortable in your own skin, that's fine. It's evolving, welcome it. Because the reason your body changes is because you made this amazing little person with 10 fingers, 10 toes, 2 sparkly eyes. You know, your body's going to bear something after that.
Yeah. You just created a miracle.
Right.
Yeah.
And it really is.
Yeah. So allow your body to do what it needs to do.
Yeah.
Having created a miracle.
Yeah.
But I totally get what you mean in terms of this bouncing back. And when we think of it in terms of bouncing back, we miss the fact that we've become somebody new. You know,
they say when a baby is born, so is a mother, don't they?
That right. Your first is that, you know, a mother is born, you've become something new. So there isn't no bouncing back to the old, because you are no longer the old. You have transformed. And it's like everything has transformed. Your focus, your attention, your priorities have transformed, you know. So this wanting to bounce back into the old is actually what causes a lot of the anxiety and frustration and depression, trying to cling on to something that's already gone, that's already left the building. You know, when you became that mother, when you became a mother, you know, it left the building, it gone, you know, and so
it's a new chapter in your book, right?
And trying to get that back can cause all of the anxiety and depression and postnatal depression that can be a trigger to it and stuff. So it's embracing the new you, the new version of you, and the new person,
and it's identity.
And
that's the thing. It's, you know, people talk about loss of identity, and it's because perhaps beforehand you identified as, you know, so I'll use myself as an example. I used to identify as a hairdresser who smoked lots, drank lots, partied lots, you know, and yet Nikki today, completely different person. I stopped smoking the day that I found out I was pregnant. I barely drink now. I'm so invested in the business that I'm creating to help other people. I would rather stay at home with my husband and my son, and my dog and my goldfish than go clubbing. Like, even the things that I used to listen to, used to read, used to watch on TV, they all shifted the last few years when I started doing the bits of personal development. And it wasn't a deliberate thing, but it's really interesting how your external stimulants change when you start just looking after yourself a bit better, raising your awareness, because like you say, you know, it's about your kid, it's creating the life that you want. And when you understand that you can do that, that not everything happens to you, you actually have control of how your life plays out, then you're on a winner, you know, and you'll teach your kids that. And that's all we want for them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's life, isn't it? You know, as you're growing up and as you go into adulthood, you know, you do all of the things. You may party hard, you may drink hard, you may smoke hard, you might do all of those things hard, you know, and stuff. And life evolves. You get to a point where you know, you don't want to do those things anymore. So hopefully as you get older, you know, you do see some people out there in their 50s, 60s still partying like they're in their 20s, 30s. And as adults, we look at them and think, what are you doing? It's like, have you not grown up? Have you not?
I love it because, you know, in Scotland, it's very common that they'll go, take a drink. And you're like, I don't really want a drink. And they'll say, you've changed. like it's an insult.
Yeah, but you're supposed to change.
Good. You're supposed to. You're still doing the same. Yeah, you're still doing the same stuff you did when we were 18.
Yeah.
Like you still go to the same
And you don't
bars
see
at
a
the same
problem
time,
with that.
you know? So when they say you've changed, I'm like, thank you.
Yeah,
I take it as a
absolutely.
compliment now.
As a
I'm
compliment.
glad.
That's right, because you're supposed to change. You're supposed to
Yeah.
keep growing. You're supposed to. You're supposed to get to that oak style, you know, the oak tree that's been there and done that and matured and grown into, you know, you're magnificent, not still doing the things of when you was 18, 19 and so on, when you're exploring and you're finding yourself and seeing what's out there in the world, you know. By the time you got to that, you know, you're supposed to have discovered certain things, or, you know, at least done some type of growing. So yes, change is the one thing that is consistent. You know,
and when you welcome it, it's nice.
Yeah, it's the one thing that is consistent that brings about growth. So that's what we want. That's what we want for ourselves. That's what we want for our children. We want them to grow and be strong, confident, resilient, amazing, powerful people that create the lives that they want to create. You know, and we as parents, if we're doing that for ourselves, then they will model. They will follow our lead. They will follow our lead.
It actually makes it easier.
Absolutely.
Because if you're trying to, you know, you watch people telling their kids, it's like, you know, the monkey see, monkey do, right? They're telling their kids one thing, how they want them to behave, but yet they're doing something completely different. And you think, well, how does that work?
Yeah, it doesn't work.
So, you know, and we know that that's why there's so many life coaches out there, because we're trying to fix everybody's stuff. Yeah. So yes, you know, it's like it actually makes your parenting easier because you understand it. So you know when you're, you know, behaving in an inappropriate manner, let's say, you identify it, you apologize for it. So your kid grows up going, okay, right, this is normal though. Yeah. Because the other side is when you try and be happy, clappy, wonderful parent all the time and they don't see anything else, that's not realistic either. So it's not always the traumatic, negative behaviours of a parent. Sometimes it's the pretense. Yeah. You're not actually benefiting the kids there either. I think they need to know the range of emotions that we go through. Yeah, you know?
Yeah, and they need to know how to overcome challenges, how to cope with adversity. These are all the things that are a part of life. And if we hide that from our children, then they don't develop those skills. So then when they are faced with adversity, they crumble. They fall apart because they haven't developed the skills to do with that, to deal with it. And so often parents who, you know, what I would call mollycoddle, wrap them up in cotton, these snowflake children, we do them no favors. We disable them in the same way. You know, it's another version of neglect as far as I'm concerned, because you've disabled your child to be able to do for themselves, you know, to be able to cope for themselves. And as when it comes down to it, everybody has to deal with their emotions for themselves. So they have to learn how to cope with that, and trying to protect it or keep it from them and so forth does them no favors in the end. So, you know, we want to find that. We want to find that good balance, that nice balance where they're dealing with some adversities and some challenges. Now, obviously, we don't want those adverse childhood experiences to occur for them. We don't want that. We don't want the horrible traumatic stuff like that. We don't want that. But the normal challenges and obstacles that you face in life, you know, and decisions that one would have to make and so forth. Experience those, learn from them. Develop your strength from them, develop your muscles from them, you know.
And it is like flexing a muscle, right? Because as a parent, you know, when I watch Archie playing with other children, you know, and if you see something going on, you know, they take a toy or whatever it is, and it's like your gut instinct is to go in and fix it, but sometimes you've got to go, you guys are going to figure that out, you know, and it's not an easy thing to always do, but we are supposed to be helping them to become independent, you know, and this is the thing. That's why parenting is, you know, it's not an easy journey because you go through this range of emotions and, you know, people are always looking for the end date, right? They have these milestones. you know, okay, it'll be easier once the teeth come in. Okay, once we get them potty trained. And it's like, do you know what? Stop looking for these destinations. This is ongoing. It's just going to change. The challenge will change, right? They'll get their teeth and that'll be done, but it'll be something else. And I'm sure you know, if my mum jumped on now, she'd be like, yeah, she's 46 and there's still challenges, right?
So that, because as you say, it's like, all right, let's get to the next milestone, but in between every milestone there is a challenge. My daughter is 21 now, you know, and there's still like thing. And as you said, my mum would turn around and say, well, she's 50 something and Mr. Life challenge.
Right? You know, it's like, stop.
And that's where it is. You are a parent for life.
Yeah.
You are a parent.
You know, stop wishing your life away.
Yeah. It just never ends. It never ends. It's just different challenges. So for whether it's a childhood challenge or it's an adult challenge, it's just different challenges. You are a parent for life, and you will always have some type of interaction with your child, whether they're a child or a grown adult. It's still going to present itself in one way or another, where you just need to be that supportive, understanding, listening, you know, unconditional love given to your child, whether child or grown. That's just the title of parent. That's how it goes. That is brilliant. So tell me, just as we're wrapping up, what's the vision for your work? What is the vision that you have?
This has actually changed in the last, so, you know, I set up the business last year, and initially it was like, okay, I want to create a safe space for mums. I want to be there to talk to them. So that exists. And then, so this is this evolving thing again. Then it evolved to creating the online guide, which you download, you do it yourself. It's got printable worksheets, and it's like making your own personal self-help visual tool. Then it's progressed again, there's more evolving going on, and it's like, okay, you know, sitting behind the laptop is not really my business. That is not what I do. So thankfully, now that we're coming out of the other side of the pandemic, we can mingle again. So I go out to events and speak to mums so that we can have that connection. You know, that's what I love doing. I like speaking to people directly. And again, then I'm evolving it again, where I'm looking at getting into more speaking parts, because I want to reach a broader audience and just, you know, plant those seeds. You know, I feel like the more people, and some people will listen at one point, and it might not be until 6 months later that that seed takes a hold, right? And they'll go, oh, I remember hearing about this. You know, so that is where I'm going with it. You know, I would love to be a household name where if you're pregnant, you get this online guide. You know, that is but the other side of it as well, it's interesting, because I keep having conversations about pricing structures and whatever. My heart and the basis of the business was to be affordable and accessible. You know, and there's so many coaches out there, and it's all high ticket. That's brilliant. If people have the money to do that, fantastic. Our circumstances, you know, you've just had a new baby. A lot of families then go down to one salary. You've just spent a fortune because you have to buy all the stuff, you know. So I want that help to be accessible and affordable for everyone. So there's been a lot of, you know, dispute when I talk to business coaches, and they'll say, oh, you need to put the prices up. And I'm like, do you know what? I'm sitting on this just now, because that is what I want, you know. So yeah, it's very much a labour of love. I just want to reach people, and if, you know, a couple of tools can help them just navigate those early days of being a parent, or whether it's later on when they're just feeling a bit overwhelmed, you know, my work is very simple. It's simple tools that you implement, and I live them. the things that are in that online guide, I live them. So if you walked into my kitchen now, you would see on my fridge that we've got a meal plan and a weekly schedule up there, because we organise our time. I do a 7-minute workout when I get up in the mornings, and I go for a walk without my phone. I've got all these things that I live and breathe. So it's not just that I've read some text somewhere and I'm sending it to you saying, yeah, try this, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
This is what has kept me in a better state of mind. I now no longer need medication, thankfully, you know, because I live in Dubai, so that doesn't come cheap. Not because I've got an aversion to it. If you need medication, by all means, I don't have a judgment or opinion on it. But what I do think is that if someone is getting medication, it would be great if the doctor also gave you a prescription for some tools that can support it. I feel that an awful lot of expectation goes into this medicine or pill, and it's not the only answer. You know, you've got to be careful how I open a narrative on it, because as I say, I took medication myself, but I think that it's part of a solution. It's not the only solution.
Yeah.
And I now feel that, you know, the things that I've implemented in the last few years are actually my solution.
Yeah,
you know,
and you'll hear many people say that, you know, that people will given antidepressant pills and they're still depressed. Why? Because they've not actually dealt with the root of the depression, and a pill cannot fix that. You know, so understanding where it's coming from and working those things out is what actually shifts the depression. Yes, the pill can help you along on that journey, you know, but it's understanding. It's understanding where it's at is what makes the difference in
it's the chemicals, right?
Right, exactly.
You know, but if you understand that, you can work a lot of the chemicals as well. So obviously this is not for everyone, but I think we need another call. We could be here all night.
Absolutely. So if people want to get in touch with you, where's the best place to do that?
So I am on Instagram, Facebook as the Scottish Soul Sister. And when you go in, I guess Instagram is the most common one. I'm on LinkedIn, I've got a website. So if you Google the Scottish Soul Sister, it will throw up all my bits and pieces.
Okay, brilliant. And of course, we will tag everything under this live stream as well. We'll put your links in on there for the Scottish Soul Sister as well, to be able to, that you'll be able to find her there. So thank you so much.
Thank you
for your time, for your energy. I truly appreciate this. Is a brilliant conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed talking to you.
Me too.
And you know, and it's important that we understand the basis of postnatal depression and the things that we can do, and making sure that, you know, the foundations that we lay for our children to grow in is just the best fertile soil as possible, you know. And doing all of these things helps that to occur. So thank you so much.
Thanks for the platform. You're doing a great job.
Oh, bless you, bless you, bless you. So guys, so just to remind you, as of the last time that we were here, we are now sponsored by Marvelous Minds Academic Mentoring, who are doing amazing tutoring online. So do look up on the page their information about what it is that they provide. But of course, it's all about transforming a generation. You know, as I say, as parents, we are our children's first and continuous teachers, and we must recognize the impact that we have on our children's beliefs about themselves, about others, and about the world around them, both positively and negatively. So let's be the positive and show our children how to be the best versions of themselves by us being the best version of ourselves. You know, visionary parenting is here to help you to do just that. So do reach out, do make contact with all of the guests that I'm bringing on here to help you, support you on that journey of being your very best you. Thank you very much again, Nikki. It was wonderful time speaking with you. And please do join us in 2 weeks' time for my next amazing great guest. Thank you so much. Take care, everybody. Be blessed, and we see you the next time. Bye-bye.